You woke up today. That's not a small thing. That's not just routine. That's not automatic. Because while your eyes opened, someone else's didn't. Somewhere in this world, another life ended before the sun rose. Another plan was cut short. Another opportunity never arrived. But you got another shot. You were handed something priceless without even asking for it. A whole day. Another 24 hours to make something count. Another 24 hours to get it right, or at least better than yesterday. Another 24 hours to say what you never said. To start what you keep putting off, to feel everything you've been too numb or too distracted to feel. And yet, what do we do with it? We scroll, we stall, we move through the hours like they're just boxes to check off. Like the clock owes us something. Like the future is guaranteed just because we expect it to be, but it's not. You were not guaranteed today. You were not guaranteed the breath you just took. This moment is a miracle. But miracles lose their magic when you treat them like habits. When you forget that every heartbeat you get is another chance to change something. Another chance to forgive, to fight, to believe, to rise. It's easy to wake up and feel numb. It's easy to get so lost in the repetition of life that you forget the rarity of it. The truth is, many people are alive, but not many are really living. You don't rise just because your body did. You rise when your mind does, when your spirit does, when you stop treating today like it's just a copy of yesterday. You've been given the most valuable thing in the world. Not money, not praise, not comfort, time. The one thing no one can ever get back once it's gone. And that means you have a responsibility. A responsibility to yourself to stop wasting your days waiting for the right moment. A responsibility to your potential to push through even when you don't feel ready. A responsibility to the people who believed in you to not let their faith in you become a memory. A responsibility to life itself, to do something with the breath you've been gifted. There is power in today, but it's silent. It won't scream at you. It won't beg for your attention. It waits quietly, patiently, until the day you finally decide to see it. This is the moment to stop treating your life like background noise. This is the moment to wake up and realize you were chosen. Out of all the days that could have ended you, this one didn't. Out of all the mistakes that could have defined you, this one gives you a chance to rewrite. Out of all the battles you thought would break you, this one proves you're still standing. So now, the question becomes, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with this day that death didn't take from you? What are you going to do with this time that the clock hasn't yet stolen? Because the longer you act like you've got forever, the more of your life you give away to distraction, to fear, to comfort. And comfort is a thief. It steals greatness in exchange for ease. But today is not about comfort. It's about clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when you realize how fragile time really is. There are people who would trade everything to be in your position right now. People stuck in hospital beds. People waiting for second chances that will never come. People who prayed for a day like this one and never saw it arrive. And here you are, breathing, moving, capable. You don't need permission to begin. You need presence. You don't need perfection. You need intention. You need to stop waiting for a sign and start treating today as the sign it already is. It's easy to look ahead and feel overwhelmed, to look back and feel regret. But what about right now? What about this breath, this chance, this opportunity to make today mean something? You don't have to do it all. You just have to do one thing, one step, one shift, one decision to treat your time like it matters. Because it does. You're not promised tomorrow, and you don't get yesterday back. All you have is now, and now is enough if you're willing to use it. So before you chase goals, before you map out your future, before you carry the weight of the world on your back, just stop for 1 second and realize the power of being here, right here. Not lost in distraction, not numbing yourself with routine, but fully awake, fully aware, fully alive. Today is a gift, but not the kind you admire and place on a shelf. It's the kind you open, the kind you use, the kind you let change you. Let it change you. And once it does, once you see it for what it really is, you'll never wake up the same again. Because once you realize what you've been given, you'll stop moving through your day like a ghost. You'll start walking through it like it matters. And from there, something begins to shift. Because once you recognize the weight of today, you start asking different questions. You stop wondering if you're good enough and start asking if you're even pointed in the right direction. If your effort is aligned with your purpose, if your energy is building something that lasts or just draining away in the noise. That's the next shift you need to make. Not just waking up, but waking up with direction. And that you can wake up with breath in your lungs and still feel like you're not really living. That's the hard truth. Because even when you've accepted the gift of today, it means nothing if you're just drifting through it. You weren't created to move in circles, to repeat the same day over and over while calling it progress. The emptiness doesn't come from lack of effort. It comes from lack of direction. That hollow feeling in your chest. It's not laziness, it's disconnection. You're grinding, pushing, doing everything you think you're supposed to do, but there's no clarity in it, no anchor, no reason that pulls you out of bed with fire in your chest. And without that, it doesn't matter how much you accomplish. You'll always feel like something's missing. You need to know where you're going, because without a target, every effort becomes noise. Direction turns motion into meaning. It takes those early mornings, long nights, all the frustration, and it gives it a purpose. When you have direction, even the pain feels like it belongs to something bigger. But here's the part most people miss. You don't find direction by accident. You choose it. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it with intention. You start asking harder questions. Where is my time going? What am I building with my energy? Are my choices lining up with who I want to become? You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need all the answers, but you do need a reason, a focus, a path that pulls you forward when motivation fades, because it will fade. That's what direction is for. It carries you when emotion can't. Once you know where you're headed, your behavior starts to shift. You stop wasting time on things that don't serve the mission. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't get it. You stop chasing validation and start building a life that aligns with your purpose. And the moment you do that, the emptiness begins to lift, because you're no longer living for the sake of staying busy. You're moving with clarity. You're acting with weight. Your life has edges now, boundaries, focus, aim. That's where it starts to change. But for direction to have power, you need one more thing, awareness. Because it's not enough to choose where you're going. You've got to be honest about where you are. And that's exactly where we go next. You can't move forward if you're blind to where you are. That's the mistake most people make. They get hyped about goals, about chasing something new, but they never stop to examine the ground they're standing on. And when you don't know where you're starting from, no direction in the world can save you. You end up lost. Not because your destination is wrong, but because you never got honest about your current location. Awareness isn't comfortable. It forces you to slow down and look inward. It makes you face your patterns, the ones you justify, the ones you avoid, the ones you've dressed up as just how I am, when deep down they've been silently wrecking your progress. Awareness makes you admit what's no longer working, whether that's a habit, a relationship, or the way you talk to yourself. This isn't about self-judgment, it's about truth, because the truth is, your chaos isn't random, it's repeated, it's rehearsed, it's been allowed to stay because it was easier than change. But now, you've reached the point where pretending not to see it is costing too much. It's draining your energy, it's fogging your focus, it's making every step forward feel like a silent battle you can't quite explain. You've got to pause and take inventory. Where is your energy going? Who are you still trying to fix? What are you clinging to out of fear, not purpose? This is the kind of reflection that changes everything, not overnight, but from the inside out. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You either evolve or you stay in the same loop and call it bad luck. Awareness is the beginning of ownership. When you're finally able to say, I let that in, I tolerated that, I kept showing up for something that gave me nothing. That honesty doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. Because now you can stop spinning your wheels and start moving with precision. But this isn't about staying stuck in what's wrong. It's about knowing what needs to change so you can start creating what's right. You stop playing the victim in your own story and start becoming the author again. Not because you have it all figured out, but because you're finally done lying to yourself. And when that shift happens, when the mask drops and the truth shows up, healing begins. You start pulling your energy back. You stop bleeding it into places that can't grow anything. And from that place of clarity, you rise. Because the moment you stop running from the truth, you start building something real. And what's real is ready to be healed. You can't carry what you never healed and expect to move forward freely. That weight you feel, that heaviness that never leaves, it's not just exhaustion. It's buildup, unspoken pain, buried emotion, the wounds you never gave yourself permission to feel. And if you never give those wounds air, they won't just stay quiet. They'll show up everywhere, in your decisions, in your relationships, in the way you talk to yourself. Healing isn't something that just happens over time. It's something you choose. You don't stumble into it. You don't accidentally become whole. You wake up one day, maybe today, and say, I'm not carrying this any further. You draw a line, not because it's easy, not because everything makes sense, but because the weight has cost you too much already. There are things you've survived that you never slowed down long enough to process. You kept moving because you had to, because people depended on you, because you didn't know how to stop. But now it's catching up to you, and your spirit is tired of pretending. You can't build peace on a foundation of silence. The pain you ignore today will sabotage your clarity tomorrow. You have to grieve what was lost, the apology you never got, the love that never came back, the version of yourself you had to abandon just to survive. You have to acknowledge what hurt you, not to stay stuck in it, but to finally let it go. Because if you don't, you'll keep bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You'll keep repeating dynamics that feel familiar, not because they're healthy, but because your heart never had a chance to reset. Healing is messy. It doesn't follow a schedule. It doesn't give you neat answers, but it gives you your life back. And more than that, it gives you you. The version of you that isn't weighed down by the past. The version of you that can love without fear, that can fight without self-sabotage, that can finally breathe without wondering when the next emotional collapse will come. Today can be that day. Not the day you fix everything, but the day you stop pretending you're fine. The day you stop blaming yourself for things that were never yours to carry. The day you stop rehearsing the same old hurt and finally allow yourself to step beyond it. You can't rise if you're still chained to what broke you. So this is where the chain breaks. This is where you stop running and start healing. Because when you heal, you don't just feel lighter, you become unstoppable.
Healing clears your eyes. It doesn't just soften the pain, it sharpens your vision. And once you begin to see clearly, you can't ignore where your energy has been going. You start noticing the patterns, the people, the routines that have drained you for years without giving anything real back. Sometimes the weight you carry isn't just emotional, it's relational. It's the silent pull of one-sided commitments, the constant giving to people and places that never pour back. And you call it love. You call it loyalty. You call it duty. But deep down, it's self-abandonment. You're investing in what's broken, hoping it will fix itself, believing if you just do a little more, give a little more, hold on a little longer, it'll finally become what you need it to be. But some things are broken by design. Some systems, some dynamics, some people, they were never built to support you. They were never meant to grow with you. And the more you evolve, the more obvious that becomes. Yet we stay. We stay because it's familiar, because we've already given so much, because walking away feels like failure, when the real failure is staying in something that robs you of your peace. You have to ask yourself, what in my life keeps taking but never returns anything? Where do I keep pouring my time, my energy, my love, and only feel emptier afterward? It's a painful question, but it's necessary. Because not every connection deserves your consistency. Not every situation is worthy of your sacrifice. You've been told to push through, to endure, to be strong. But strength isn't about holding on to what's hurting you. Sometimes, strength is learning to let go of what no longer aligns, of what's no longer healthy, of what's no longer yours to fix. And this doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. You are not required to deplete yourself just to keep something alive, especially if that something is draining your future, especially if it's distracting you from your purpose. You need to audit your life like it matters, because it does. You need to look at the relationships you've been maintaining out of guilt, the environments you keep returning to out of comfort, the patterns you keep repeating out of fear. And you need to cut ties, not out of hate, but out of healing. Because every time you say yes to something broken, you're saying no to your breakthrough. Every time you hold on to dysfunction, you delay your transformation. Every time you settle, you shrink. And you weren't built to shrink, you were built to rise. It's time to reclaim your inner. There comes a moment, after you've pulled away from what's broken, after the fog begins to lift, when you're faced with something far harder than letting go. You're faced with the truth, not the version you tell yourself to sleep at night, not the version you present to others to save face, the truth that sits in silence, the truth that doesn't care about your pride, the truth that shows you exactly why the cycle keeps repeating. Because that's what pain does when you refuse to learn from it. It repeats itself. It disguises itself in new people, new places, new distractions. But at the core, it's the same wound, untouched and unacknowledged.
Until you confront it, nothing changes. You end up living the same year over and over again, calling it growth, calling it movement, when in reality, you've just mastered the art of staying busy while going nowhere. It's not easy to accept that some of your suffering was self-chosen, that some of the heartbreak came from ignoring red flags you saw, that some of the delays came from your own hesitation, your own excuses, your own fear of what life might demand of you if you really stepped into it. But truth is never meant to shame you, it's meant to free you. Because once you accept what's real, you stop living in reaction. You stop making decisions from wounds. You stop giving power to narratives that were never yours to begin with. The truth might hurt, but it's the only thing that gives you your authority back. It's the only thing that breaks the cycle. Most people stay stuck not because they're incapable, but because they're dishonest. They pretend the job isn't draining their soul. They act like the relationship isn't destroying their self-worth. They carry dreams they never act on and convince themselves it's just not the right time. But deep down, they know. They just don't want to face what that knowing would require of them. Facing truth requires loss. You lose illusions. You lose comfort. You lose excuses. But what you gain clarity. You gain movement. You gain the chance to finally live a life that fits the person you're becoming, not the one you were trying to protect. You don't need another pep talk. You don't need another promise to do better next time. You need honesty. Brutal, surgical honesty about the ways you've held yourself back, about the ways you've made peace with mediocrity, about the parts of your life you keep trying to fix instead of replace. The cycle ends when the truth is louder than your denial, when you stop blaming and start owning, when you stop repeating and start rebuilding, when you stop waiting for change and start becoming it. That's the threshold, the place where most people turn back. It's easier to stay in patterns than to break them, easier to complain than to confront. But you're not here for easy. You're here for real, for peace, for power. And that only comes when you face the truth and let it shape you. The truth is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also the most parts of your...
There's a cost for every level of power you want to step into. And it's not always talent. It's not always opportunity. More often than not, it's pain. That's the part most people run from. They want the growth, the transformation, the confidence, the peace, but they don't want to bleed for it. They don't want to endure the silence, the setbacks, the betrayal, the grind that doesn't get noticed. They want the crown without carrying the weight. But life doesn't work like that. You don't get stronger by avoiding the fire. You get stronger by surviving it. Pain reveals who you are, not in your highlight reel, not when everything's going smooth, but in the breakdown, in the stretch, in the pressure. That's where the real you shows up. That's where you find out what you're actually made of. And if you're always avoiding that space, always running from discomfort, you'll never access your real power. Some of the most powerful shifts in your life won't come from inspiration. They'll come from frustration, from heartbreak, from loss, from moments that brought you to your knees and forced you to decide whether you'd stay there or rise differently. Pain is the classroom. Growth is the test. And how you respond in the moments no one sees, that's what builds the future no one expects. You have to stop seeing pain as punishment. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to develop you. It's the resistance that builds your emotional muscle. It's the silence that strengthens your inner voice. It's the rejection that clarifies your worth. It's the failure that prepares your discipline. Everything you're asking for, clarity, focus, strength, it comes through pressure, but only if you stay in it long enough to learn from it. Most people quit right before the pain has something to teach them. They disconnect. They numb. They blame. They back down. Because somewhere along the way,
They believed the lie that if it hurts, it must not be meant for them. But pain doesn't mean stop. Pain means pay attention. It means something inside you is being refined. Something you used to tolerate is no longer welcome in your life. Some version of you is being peeled away to make room for who you really are. And yes, it hurts. But that hurt, it's proof you're changing. So feel it. Don't run from it. Don't silence it. Sit with it. Ask it what it's trying to show you. Pain is one of the most honest voices you'll ever hear, if you're willing to listen. It'll tell you where your boundaries are weak, where your energy is leaking, where your mindset is stuck in survival mode. And when you stop fearing it, when you start working with it, you become unstoppable. Because the truth is, you don't build resilience when things are easy. You build it.
After pain, there's always a pause. A moment where everything goes still. Not because life has gotten easier, but because you've changed. And in that space, clarity has room to speak. If pain refines you, clarity directs you. It becomes the lens that filters your focus, the voice that tells you what's worth your energy and what needs to be left behind. But clarity doesn't shout. It whispers. And most people never hear it because they're too busy moving, chasing, surviving. You don't get clear by speeding up. You get clear by getting honest. What do you really want? Not what looks good on paper, not what impresses other people, not what you settled for when you stopped believing in what was possible. Clarity demands you dig through the noise, past the distractions, past the fear, and get to the truth. Not just about your goals, but about who you are. Because when you're unclear, you scatter. You say yes to everything and get pulled in 100 directions. You confuse activity with progress. But once you get clear, your life begins to align. The chaos doesn't disappear, but you stop fueling it. You stop wasting time on things that don't fit your future. You stop begging people to believe in what you were born to do. Clarity sharpens your discipline. It simplifies your priorities. When you know what matters, you stop chasing what doesn't. And once that happens, you don't just feel motivated. You feel grounded. You feel aligned. Every decision has a purpose behind it. Every step carries weight. But clarity doesn't happen by accident. You have to write it down, make it real, make it visible. Because if it only lives in your mind, it will get buried under doubt and distraction. Put it on paper. Name it, shape it, speak it, then build around it and don't keep it to yourself. Share it with the right people. People who will hold you accountable when your old habits try to pull you back. You need people who challenge you to stay aligned, not people who keep you comfortable in confusion. Because if your dream can be built alone, it's not big enough. This is where your life starts to take shape. This is the point where guessing ends and direction begins. When you know what you want, and you stop apologizing for it, you stop dimming it, you stop waiting, you begin to move. And from that movement, everything else begins to shift. Energy returns, discipline sharpens, fear fades. Because now, you're not just reacting to life, you're creating it. And once your vision is in motion, there's only one thing left to do. Rise.
Everything you've walked through has led here. Every broken piece, every setback, every sleepless night that left you wondering if any of it was worth it, it all built something in you that can't be taught. It built resilience. It built depth. It built a version of you that doesn't crumble under pressure, because pressure is where you were formed. You don't need someone to save you. You don't need permission to become who you were meant to be. You've already survived more than most people know, and the fact that you're still standing, still breathing, still willing to try, that's not weakness. That's strength. That's proof that what's inside you is stronger than what tried to break you. You've healed. You've let go. You've taken inventory of your life. You've stopped pouring into what drains you. You've faced the truth. You've learned from the pain. You've clarified your vision. And now it's time to rise. This isn't about hype. It's about alignment. It's about realizing you were never powerless. You were just distracted. You were never behind. You were just buried under expectations that didn't belong to you. But you've peeled all that back now. What's left is real, raw, unshakable. You spent enough time preparing, enough time second-guessing, enough time wondering if you're enough. You are. You always were. The only thing that needed to shift was your belief in yourself. So rise. Not tomorrow, not when it's perfect, now. Rise with the fear, with the scars, with the lessons. Rise knowing that everything you faced wasn't meant to stop you, it was meant to shape you. It was meant to make sure that when your moment came, you'd be ready, and this is your moment. No more shrinking, no more waiting for signs, no more playing small to make other people comfortable. You've done the inner work. You've earned this. It's time to move with conviction. Time to show up with your full weight. Time to speak, to act, to live like you know exactly who you are. You're not here to repeat survival mode. You're here to build something that lasts. You're here to step into a future that no longer looks like your past. And no matter how far you've fallen, no matter how long it took to get here, you're not late. You're right on time. So get up. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Stand inside your story and own it, all of it. Not just the wins, but the war that built them. Because this version of you, this one is ready. You're not just built to endure, you're built to conquer. And the rest of your life starts now.